That's Craig Truman, and he's essentially pleading for his client's life because the kid's facing life in prison without the possibility of parole. Let me come out to Tom Mesereau. Tom, we talked earlier with our guests about this issue. The U.S. Supreme Court is considering whether juveniles should be eligible for life in prison without parole, and I can guess that you don't think they should.
No, I don't. You know, I look back at my development and how I changed, you know, from year to year and decade to decade. I look at the difficult obstacles a lot of young people have without parents to take care of them, with all the bad, you know, influences on the street, and to treat a teenager as a formed adult and to put them into an adult-type prison for the rest of their life when they were basically immature, underdeveloped, not terribly realistic about who they were and what they should or should not do, I think is a miscarriage of justice. It's not what our justice system should be about. We should be treating children as children. We should be doing our best to rehabilitate them, educate them, handle them properly. I'm not saying they're all angels, and I'm not saying that some teenagers don't have the mindsets of adults, but most don't.
Yeah,
and to categorize them as adult offenders, I think is wrong.
It remains to be seen what the court will do. I'm hopeful that they took the case because they're at least open to the arguments. They certainly found, I think, in the right way on the death penalty case 2 years ago, and maybe some of those same arguments will be persuasive in this case. We'll find out, of course, in the spring. Tom, when I introduced you, I said that you're one of my personal heroes, and you are, but it makes me wonder who your personal heroes are in our profession, our chosen profession, or as I call it, a calling of law. Do you have any? I've read your wonderful article on Johnnie Cochran and his brilliant closing argument in the O.J. Simpson case. Are there some others who are still with us, or maybe in history, who you consider heroes in the legal profession?
Well, there are many heroes I have in this profession. Clarence Darrow is one of the greatest trial lawyers and the greatest humanitarians I've ever learned about. His closing argument should be studied by every law student who aspires to the courtroom. He brought an enormous sense of humanity and understanding of people different from himself. He was curious about life. He was well-versed in the humanities, the social sciences, literature, religion, philosophy. A towering hero of mine for the courtroom. But as I said before, Johnnie Cochran, absolutely. The greatest trial lawyer I ever saw. He brought humility, he brought decency, he brought warmth. Respect for everyone into the courtroom. He was a genius when it came to figuring out how to win. A fabulous lawyer, a fabulous person. If you're looking for a hero in the courtroom, you want to find someone who's not only a good lawyer, who's also a good human being. Because I think good human qualities shine forth in the courtroom, and many lawyers don't have them, and much of legal education doesn't emphasize it. So yeah, that's how I look at it.
Yeah, I like two words that you spoke, humanity and humility. And we're here with someone, Tom, who I think wants to speak to both of those qualities in you. I don't want to embarrass you too much, but we might. So get ready to blush a little bit. Beth Karras, my good friend and colleague, is here with me. I wanted to have both Jean and Beth on in our last broadcast, and Beth, of course, has covered your work, Tom, and Beth, I wanted to have you on to talk a little bit, since we are the best defense, and Tom is one of the best trial lawyers in the country and one of my personal heroes, and you've covered so many cases and so many lawyers and so many criminal defense attorneys. I thought, who better to come on and talk with me about why Tom Mesereau is the great Tom Mesereau?
Well, first of all, everything Tom just said, and hello, Tom. It's so nice to see you.
Hi,
everything
Beth.
He just said about Johnnie Cochran and Clarence Darrow, you could say about Tom. You know, recently I was asked by another attorney who's quite up there in profile right now, who I thought the best defense attorney was in the country, and I didn't skip a beat. I said, well, Tom Mesereau. Although there are wonderful attorneys all over the place, and I've dealt with many, but of course, Tom is always the first name that comes to mind for me. When I was covering Robert Blake's preliminary hearing in 2003 in Van Nuys, California, it was February 2003, I didn't know who Tom was. The country didn't know who he was. And it wasn't long before I said, this guy is California's best-kept secret. By the end of the preliminary hearing, I expanded it to the country. He's the country's best-kept secret. And then we saw his performance in a case that everybody thought was a loser for the defense, in his defense of Michael Jackson. He and Tom has the humanity and the humility. He has an intuition about people in the courtroom that all trial lawyers wish they could have. He understands his juries. He understands the witnesses. He knows the evidence inside out. and everyone should study Tom Mesereau to be a good trial
So
lawyer.
well put, Beth. This is why we wanted to have you on at this moment. Thank you so much for joining us. Tom, I have just about a minute left, and the message of the best defense has always been to celebrate the defense bar, but also the clients that we seek to serve as defense attorneys. It's not a popular message in the country at this time, though I sense that the tide is shifting a bit, especially with all of the exonerations. Can you say a word to our viewers as we leave them about that mission and perhaps the open mind as potential jurors that they should have when they come into a courtroom?
Well, first of all, thank you both for the wonderful compliments. I don't know if I deserve them, but I very much appreciate it. You know, we defense lawyers have a real challenge. We have to make this system work. We have to fight, you know, enormous odds, and very often the public assumes we're not telling the truth and we're not being honest. But we fight forward anyway, and unless we do our jobs, this system does not work properly. It's the best system in the world, but it has a lot of flaws. We have to expose those flaws and make sure that power is not abused, because power has a tendency to just infect people in a way that makes it abusive. I think we do a wonderful service for the country, wonderful service for this great system, and I'm very proud to be a defense attorney. I always will be.
Well, I'm very proud to have met you through this work, Tom, and thank you very much for being on with us. And Beth Karas, I've met you through Court TV, and I know we'll continue to work together, and you'll continue within session as live coverage continues next week of all of our trials. And Beth, it's been an honor to have you on all these years. Thank you for being with us on our last show.
Well, thank you so much,
Thank
Jamie.
you so much.
And Jamie, you don't know what it has meant to me also to be on the last hour in New York. Oh.
Well, you'll continue on Monday, and we're going to tell our viewers all about what the plan is for Monday later in the broadcast. But thank you to Tom Mesereau and Beth Karas. What a treat to have you on together in the last hour on this, our last show.